We're back.
Certainly are.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this one, the team performance assessment.
Yeah, enjoyed this one.
Yeah, looking forward to this one.
So we're delivering on this. Well, we're going to be delivering more on this, aren't we? We Think Giant.
Yeah.
New business we've launched.
Really exciting times.
Specialising all around
Leadership.
strategy and culture.
Yeah.
And this tool and this sort of area, so it says every problem is rooted in one of 5 key leadership areas. And I don't think there's any argument with that, would you say?
There's not. I think what I've realised in the last 3 to 4 years going into some big businesses and companies and organisations is sometimes a lot of problems that we have and can easily be sorted out through basic communication. And it's how we communicate with individuals, either as a peer group or as our team. And I think these 5 areas, if we can nail this, I think it's a game changer for everyone.
So who's listing them? Do you want me to start? Who's going to list them? Are you going for it, Dana?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, the 5 areas then, the leadership areas, where we've looked at, obviously, the strengths and weaknesses, but failure, where generally it breaks down, comes into these 5 areas. So we've got communication, and we'll class that as a breakdown in communication that creates drama, unnecessary conflict, inefficiency, and in turn dropping the ball.
I think that's quite big, and I think in the different organisations, different roles we've all taken on, it's only when you look back you can see these sort of patterns and trends. But I think what I love about this sort of model is seeing that as a team grows, it's going to break down. There's going to be conflicts, there's going to be drama, and conflict isn't a bad thing. You know, but it's making it, I think it's safe, innit? And then the second one is relationship breakdown. Breakdown in relationships which creates mistrust, gossip, turf wars, toxic environments. And then the third one, Dina?
Third one is alignment. A breakdown in alignment can create wasted effort, duplicated work, and lost time. But yeah, like you say, I think this, it's only when you start looking at this, you take a step back, you see it more like a bird's eye view, don't you? You don't see it until you realise. The next one, so number 4, is execution. A breakdown in execution creates unmet goals, missed deadlines, blown budgets, and damaged credibility. Big one.
And again, we'll go into these in more detail, but I think the 5th one and is a capacity. And a capacity breakdown is you feel burnt out, you've missed opportunity, and sometimes a bit of stagnation. And I think what I wanted us to do today is, when we're going out putting Giant out into the big bad world, we start with this assessment. And the feedback we often get at times is people don't know how to answer the questions, do they?
No, they don't know how to answer the questions. And I think they're frightened to get the answers as well from the questions.
Frightened to get it wrong.
Frightened to get it wrong. And I think sometimes when you answer these questions, you've just got to don't think about them too much.
Yeah,
because it should just come natural. What your gut instincts tell you about your business. How do you feel about communication? How do you feel about your workload? And a load of different questions that we're asking is just go with your gut, answer them, and then we've got a starting point at the end of this when you've completed it and the team's completed it. We can find out where our strengths and weaknesses are, and we can also work on them weaknesses, can't we?
Well, I'm going to try and find, which I had the data, but I can't find our own results. I've got our own results somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where's our own results? You got them. Pass us our own results.
Didn't I just give them?
I've got it here.
We've got them somewhere, haven't we? We have got them somewhere. I don't know what I've done with them.
There you go.
So, what I thought would be good to discuss is we've done this score, and we scored, I think, 80% overall, which
is really good.
We think that's really good. When we first started doing this, we was in the 50s, 60s, weren't we, Dean?
Yeah, we was, yeah.
Over 2 years ago, we've been doing this. And just talk to people in terms of how we apply this tool and why we're on this assessment. We run it every quarter, don't we? And
yeah. So we push this like team analysis assessment out. We push it out every quarter. It goes out to every member of staff. It goes out per department as well, and it's a really good indicator. As long, again, like what you mentioned earlier, is making sure that it's filled into the best of your knowledge, fill it in accurately to what you think, because you're going to get more accurate data out of it. Now, for us, it helps us spot trends as to dips in scores that have gone low. We can analyse why it's low. Areas where we've worked on to improve, we can see them scores have gone up as well. But it gives you a great overview of what's potentially wrong in your culture and what's working. And I think we had some obvious numbers for us because we've been working on this. The numbers what had dipped in certain areas, we knew why.
Yeah, and I think we'll just talking through them. So if I was to look at the top 5 scores across them 5 areas, but this is just our top 5 scores. So ours is we're doing really well on capacity. So our team has a process for developing others. But when we first went on this journey, and I always remember, and it's so funny, I prepped this one day. I remember when you was doing your leadership degree.
Yeah.
And it was tough, and I was doing mine as well. And it was a tough time for us both, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Having to our maths and our English, and all the way back in Melton, probably 10, 11 years ago, maybe longer than that. But I always remember coming in and having a conversation with you when you was leading for the first time. And just talk through one of the first things I asked about our team has a process for developing others. Back then, did you have a process for developing others?
No, not at all. I remember bringing in a member of staff to take on some of my duties. I think he was with us for a good six months or so, and I was responsible for leading him. I didn't think he had what it takes. He had a great CV when he came in to do the work. He couldn't cut the work really. Just didn't fit. Didn't have the technical skills. I think I went to you and asked the question. You said, "What do I do? I'm stuck." And then Leon was like, "What have you done to support him? What training have you put in place? What development plans have you got? How much time are you dedicating?" And I was like, "He's coming with a CV. I just expect him to be able to do it." So I always remember it was that question. You said, "What have you done? What have you done to set him up to win?" And I'd done nothing really, apart from send him to site to do jobs. So that was like a light bulb moment for me. So actually, we haven't got any training development plans. We don't have any dedicated one-to-one time for training. We've not assigned him any resources where he can go off and do self-paced or classroom training. And for us, that was the start of that journey, I think, to start building these processes for training and developing our staff. It was key. And I even get it today, members of staff, that we've got younger members of staff who are leading people, and they come up and say, "This isn't happening, that happening." I was usually on the line, say, "Well, what have you done to set them up to win?"
Yeah, and I think what's interesting on that is when we look at capacity, a breakdown of capacity, I think what's really interesting on that is get things done without burning out. So you was getting burnt out in that situation because you've hired someone on what I would class as on credibility, not chemistry, like we talk about in here. So you're thinking, he's got a great CV. But it's sort of what we were talking about previous on this is no matter how great a CV someone's got, how an organisation runs and operates completely different. You deliver mental health first aid training.
Yes.
Don't you?
Yeah.
And if I was to deliver it, my training would be different to yours. Why?
Because I've had different experiences to you, right? So when I deliver my training, I tell it through a story. I tell it through my own experience. Your experience is different to mine. And I've worked in different organisations, so I can pass on different experiences in maybe how not to do certain things because I've seen it. Leon ain't been in my shoes, so he'd be able to deliver, but he won't be able to do it the same as me.
And I always remember challenging you, calling him up, not calling him out.
Yeah.
And I said, what is the process for learning? And I always remember learning this, and this is part of Giant, it's called Developing Others. And I think it's Maslow and Gordon Training International, I think, where the source comes from. But it basically says there's sort of 4 areas when you're learning someone. And the sort of 4 stages of learning someone goes through. First stage is you're unconsciously incompetent at what you're doing. But let's start back at the sort of the end goal. If you jump from number 1 straight to number 4, Dean in his role he was unconsciously competent at what he was doing. You just got it, didn't you?
Yeah.
You've had this CV, and all of a sudden you've got someone in. And what I was trying to call Dean up on was, have you sat down and had a conversation with this guy, this team member? Have you gone through some training? Because you got to go through the 4 stages of learning, where is I do, you watch. And that's when that person's unconsciously incompetent at what you're doing. Then you move to I do, you help. And all of a sudden they start becoming conscious, but they're still incompetent. They still can't do it. And they were trying to move into that sort of 3rd stage of learning where they do it and you help them. And at that point, they're becoming consciously competent. And I think the big challenge is with leadership and with any skills in what we're doing is a lot of the times we're unconsciously competent at what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we don't realise that. I had it today. We've got a new marketing piece coming out, and we use a piece of software called Figma. It's a real complicated piece of software. And do you know on the new workwear we're getting done?
Yes.
We're getting the new 5 Voices certified.
Yes.
Aren't we?
Yep.
And I wanted to create a new little badge. And I created this little badge, and I knew how to create this badge and create this software. But then Zoe had to do the same piece of work. And I could naturally do it. It was only when Zoe said, "Can you help me do it?" And in that moment, I couldn't work out how I'd done it. I'd gone mad.
You just done it.
I just figured it out. And Zoe had to go away and get some training for us, because when I tried to do it, I even confused myself even further, because I was like, I don't know. I thought too much about it. And I think at times we've got to be aware that sometimes you just you can just do things, and when you try to explain it, it becomes it's an art form.
And I think where Dean was talking with that member of staff who said they'd been here for 6 months, if they didn't know what they was doing, they'd probably end up into the pit of despair.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where it went, really, because I didn't provide enough support. But we've expanded recently. We took on 3 or 4 new members of staff, and I've got somebody working directly alongside me to help me, again, relieve some duties. But
it's hard.
This time it's even harder.
Is it?
You've got to get into your mind that it's going to slow you down. It's naturally going to slow you down before it'll speed you up. You've got to invest that time, and the reason you get somebody in is because you haven't got time.
And how's it getting?
It's good. It's good.
He's lying. I'll even though I'm saying I'm calling him up, I'm calling him out because we're on air, aren't we? We had a meeting, same page meeting, me and you, like developmental meeting, where we're checking on each other. Yeah. And I could tell he's at capacity. He's gone behind because he's got his own jobs to do. He's trying to train someone else and how many? I think we're up to 20. Is it nearly 20 staff now?
Yeah, 20 staff.
Rapid growth. When I was first, how many was us? 4 of us. 4 of us. So rapid growth. You've been seeing, haven't you? You had to move. How many times you moved in this office now?
I think I'm at my 6th desk. I'm getting nearer the door.
Yeah, that's part of the plan. But the conversation, I said to him, I said, "Do you feel like what do they call it? An octopus on roller skates?"
Yeah,
is what I said, and he was like, "Yeah." And the challenge is, some things do have to drop when you're a leader. Some things do have to drop.
Yeah,
you can't keep every plate spinning, and it's just trying to prioritise, because you've got to, and it's a stupid cliche at times, but it's so true. You got to slow down sometimes to speed up.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. It's so hard.
Hardest.
But I think what's interesting when we run through this, just so the people can understand. So when we look at communication breakdown, if we try and understand that further, why we love Giant, it's the 5 voices. Everyone speaks, but not everyone is heard. And do you want to add to that a bit more, Paul? Because if you didn't have Giant as a tool, why have we set up Think Giant? Why are we so passionate about that?
We're so passionate about setting Giant up because everybody can have a voice, but not everybody's heard. And I believe that if we have team members in every one of our teams that have got massive and fantastic great ideas, but they're not ahead because other people can dominate their meetings. So some people don't like conflict. So when they're actually talking in a meeting, they don't come out with their fantastic ideas because a certain person, maybe a pioneer, or a connector or creative, because they're that far ahead. I think you and I have had meetings in the past where...
Let's talk through, I think, a real good one. When we talk about Giant, we talk about rules of engagement.
Yes.
And if we just summarise, for someone who doesn't know, just go through the quick 5 voices. What are the 5 voices?
So 5 voices, right? So we've got a nurturer. So nurturer is 43% of the population, right? So they're the biggest of the 5 voices.
Right? Who's a nurturer around here?
Me.
Oh, right, okay.
Are you a nurturer as well?
Yeah, I'm a nurturer. I used to be creative.
You used to be creative, yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've changed. I'm a changed man, right? Obviously, a nurturer is all people, and we like to look after them. And then we've got guardians, right?
I struggle with them.
You struggle with a guardian, do you?
Yeah, Scott's a guardian. Struggle with guardians.
So guardians,
man, and Mrs. Voice,
and then we've got creatives. They dream big. They love it. And I think you used to be creative, didn't you?
I look at this as a model. I think it's all built on Myers-Briggs. So if we summarise it, we've got nurturers, we've got guardians, we've got creatives, we've got connectors, and we've got pioneers. And I always like telling the story in terms we've got people above the line.
People below the line.
And people below the line. So people above the line, your nurturers and your creatives and your connectors are all people first. And your nurturers are more introverted or more in the here and now. And your connectors and creatives are off in the future, aren't they? And I think in the pioneers, they're off in the future, but they're all about the detail, military precision. Yep. And then your guardians are in the here and now, but bit like Liam Nielsen at times. They can proper grill you, can't you, with some awkward questions. And I think when you look at it and you look at communication, why I love it as a framework, each voice has rules of engagement.
Yep. And
I think if you really want to challenge and champion diversity, equity, and inclusion, let's look at that. Rules of engagement for nurturers. We want to hear your opinion.
Yeah.
And no one is going to critique your idea immediately. We appreciate your commitment to champion people and defend values, right? And if we use that as rules of engagement with you guys, you both nurturers.
Yep.
How many times have you guys not believed in yourself or not said the truth?
Massively. Then I've come back and gone, do you know, I was actually right. I should have said something. But I've been in a room with dominant people and I've come away thinking, they know better than me. And then I've actually gone away and studied and I was actually right, but I didn't say anything. I'm getting better, getting a lot better. I think we've had that. I was delivering one of these giant sessions last week, and I had a guardian asking awkward questions, and because I knew his voice, and I knew he liked asking the awkward questions, I welcomed him, and he went, "I'm sorry." He kept apologising, "Sorry for asking these awkward questions," but I went, "Don't apologise at all, but just let me answer." And it was great. It was absolutely great. And because you know what the voices are in the room and their traits and tendencies, we can then give people the platform to come out and be the best version of them. Yeah, I like that.
No, I like that. And I think it's looking at that. What have you learned in that sort of scenario?
Yes, it's like what Paul mentioned, understanding people's voices is a game changer. I think my nemesis voice, because I'm an nurturer, same as Paul, is pioneers. I struggle. We've got customers that are pioneers that are on this platform, and we're working. We can actually have conversations in giant speak, if that makes sense. And it comes. So the first thing, this particular customer will ring me. He's a pioneer. He knows I'm a nurturer. He knows that the way he communicates can maybe set me back a little bit. So the first thing he'll say on the phone to me is, right, list of problems, I'm going to go pioneer on you for the next 5 minutes. But that sets the scene. So I'm prepared. I know it's coming at me. I know the way it's going to be delivered. I know it's not personal. I know there's problems. And it helps the communication path just a million times. It's been fantastic for me. I've learnt a lot. And I think, do I struggle? Guardian a little bit, I presume. It's the critique. I struggle with the critique a little bit, but I'm used to it now, because I know this platform. And what you mentioned, because you're creative, you have millions of ideas, a guardian for you is going to come in and critique them ideas.
But I think what I've started to learn over the years now with this, when I've looked at Belbin's team roles, Maya Briggs, all the rest of it, is no one ever has a unique idea, I don't think. It's always built on top of something else. Look at Giant, it's built on top of the things. And you need different perspectives. But sometimes I think what I've started to learn more, we talk about, we have this word boundary around about emotional intelligence, don't we? But I think you've got to know yourself to lead yourself, which the framework talks about all the time. And I think what you've got to look at is you've got to look for your learning opportunity with different people, because I've always been a massive fan of, from a business side, when it goes wrong, Scott shares this value, you share this value, it's our time to shine. And I've always said, which I never knew as a connector back in the day, but it's a comms problem.
Yes.
I've always said it's a comms problem. We use tools like 5 Whys, all these different things to dig deep, because you got to call it, you got to own it, and then you got to respond to it, and then you got to execute, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think once you can get past them sort of barriers, like we say, like self-preservation, and Giant's got some amazing tools around that, is if you have an opinion where, and you're a guardian, and Scott's big on this, but in the past, that we only employ people that have got the right CVs. Now, there's a point for that. If you was getting a heart surgeon, you want to know he's a qualified heart surgeon first, you do. Right? So qualifications and credibility has got a long way to play. But what I would say is, especially in the industry we're in, we're starting to see people come from other industries into tech. It's been hard to get women into tech for years, hasn't it? We're actively recruiting. We've got more women in the business now than when we started in terms of all staff. So we're trying our hardest, because women bring a different energy, a different voice, a different perspective, and you've got to balance that across the organisation. But I think where I'm leading to this is, everything is a comms problem. We've got to always strive to be that little bit better than we was yesterday. And for me, without having a framework like the 5 voices, I think it's a massive uphill struggle, is what I would say. Anything to add?
Yeah.
When I talk to companies and organisations about Giant, I just tell them I believe it's going to be a game changer for them, because I see the massive benefits that it's had over the last 2 years we're using Giant, and I see the problems that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, with just basic communication. There's a load of different tools that when I was a production manager years ago, there's a load of tools in Giant that I would have loved to have been at my disposal.
If you had them back
Yeah,
then.
the piece index, the communication code, all these different things would have made my job so much easier. And the 5 voices, because in the different meetings that we undertook, different people would have had their chance to shine, where I think in the past they never.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, if we keep on this theme, so we're digging into communication at the minute. We mentioned that you need some sort of framework or tools to get. So, like we're saying, you use Giant, you can use Myers-Briggs, all different ones, just to show we've got different personalities, basically.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be different. But I think what's been the game changer for me, again on this, is you've also got the 5 Voices Personal Development Plan. And looking at, you picked a couple of tendencies. So again, I don't know if you can remember any of yours.
Yeah.
Do you want to share yours?
One of mine, I think. So one of my tendencies that I need to work on is, you've always said this to me, it's like sometimes you don't believe in yourself. I think the wording is, you're a highly skilled professional. It's about time you started believing it.
I love it.
And I
love that one for you.
That's been the biggest one I'm taking into this year.
But that's the same for you, Paul, isn't it? Because how many hours we've been putting into, so I think Giant's gone live, got massive events going on, haven't we? This has been probably 3 years in the making.
Yes.
But then there's Myers-Briggs and Belbins that we've worked on previously, disc profiling, print, all these different ones. It's not like our first rodeo, right?
Yeah.
And like, we're on the edge, like leading edge of technology. Where we've got basically Netflix for leadership. We've got access to these tools. We use it in our recruitment strategy. People don't know, what we've got at our disposal. And at times, I've been challenging the pair of you two. Sometimes you don't back yourselves. And what was really interesting, because part of when we're looking at communication and relationships, the 5 Voices personal development plan is you share sort of 2 areas you're going to work on from your first voice, one from your second voice and one from your third voice, and then you share it with your own circle of influence. So us guys have shared it with each other, haven't we? We're holding each other accountable. And then what that does is, and it sounds so simple, but it's just data again, and I love this being a connector, is the people you trust and respect within your circles, if they see yourself doing something good, what do you have to do, Paul? Do you want to explain here where I'm going?
So, my circles of influence, so obviously you've got to start on yourself.
Yeah.
Got to start on yourself first. And we've got to be 100% healthy to multiplying, obviously, with our family, our team, organisation and community, right? We've got to be healthy to help them. What do we do with them is I have my people of influence, I've got my family, I've got my friends, right? And I jotted down 10 people of influence in my life and what they brought to my life. And I know hundreds of people, but...
Thousands, you?
Thousands, yeah. But I have a small circle. Can I
Can I just interrupt you there? It says Leon is your number 1. Shouldn't that be your wife?
Because
That's a worry, isn't it?
I think...
Don't sell Kim.
Can I ask where your wife is on that list?
Third.
Oh, God.
She ain't going to listen to this, is she?
No, but there's a difference,
Right.
right? So when I was starting on my business journey 4 years ago, the last person I would speak to regarding business is my wife, because she would get frightened, right?
Yeah.
And push her fears onto me.
Well, it's back to, if we link it back into Giant, it's back to self-preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bit where you was leading on this is to help him, and great discovery there, because great discussion point is...
To edit that bit out.
Look, it's true, because I always tell a story as well. So to tell some of them stories when we was walking, would I think mental health be where it is, where you are now?
No.
I think Cloud wouldn't be the same.
No.
Because I always remember starting my first business and making some moves, and that meant I had to get a second house and I had to take some risks. And I remember speaking to my mum, and oh my God, just knocked
knocked it all away.
knocked the wind out of me.
Yeah.
And
Too much risk, etc.
and linking back into that, tee you up and continue where he was going.
Yeah, so we used to go for walks in the morning, and
Is this with your wife or
no,
Leon?
Leon and I, early morning walk, and I used to think, I want to start this business, I want to do this, I want to do that. I've got a vision, I need to go with it, and anytime I had a problem executing what I wanted to do, we'd go for a walk, and because there was times, this is a true story, this. So I booked a holiday with my redundancy money, right? So it was all paid for, but it was self-catering, right? I'm laid on a beach in Tenerife, right? And Kim went, oh, tomorrow, Paul, we'll go on a boat trip. And I thought, we don't. If the money doesn't hit my bank today, we ain't got no money to eat tomorrow, right? Total truth. The business account had £30 in it, and me personal account had 70 quid in it, right? I had nothing. But I'd done some work for a company that I was waiting for it to hit the bank.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her that. But luckily it hit, and we ate the next day. But people don't see that, right?
No.
And I was walking with Leon in the morning, and I used to share this information. And it was like, believe, keep going, you know what's right. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
But that's why he's...
I get it. A great explanation.
Yeah.
But it's different. I think what's about looking at, again, though, when we talk about above the line and below the line, when we're talking, it's all different areas and it's having a different influence. And I think, like you two, right? Like, how often do I ask you two for different opinions on different things? I've asked you to come in meetings before.
Yeah.
And then after that meeting, check in with you. And I'm looking for feedback because we all see the world differently, don't we? Mm-hmm. And I think what's really interesting when you look at your sort of 5 circles of influence is when you do start changing and growing, sometimes it's very difficult for people around you to understand.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I think when we go forward, I think we talk about this in Giant, we've got to be intentional and not accidental, especially with our 5 circles of influence. You've got to be intentional in what we do. And that's, I think we had a crucial conversation over Christmas where I'm great, absolutely flying.
Who had me and you?
Me and you,
Did
we
we?
had a conversation over Christmas,
Did we? I can't remember.
And no, 'cause there's parts of my circles of influence that I was probably failing on, right? And I don't know whether it's been a nature that I always think you can't disturb people because they'll be too busy because I think of others, right? But I need to put myself out there a bit more, which I do now, which if people are too busy to speak to you, they'll tell you. I'll come back to you. So I used to put things off, and I was probably with the inner circle, the family and stuff. I was probably not as helpful as I could be because I was busy doing the team, the organisation, the other stuff, and I wasn't putting my family. So there was bits where I worked on. It's like a dimmer switch, innit?
Yeah, but what we were saying is sometimes you abdicate, don't you?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not liberating in them areas. You abdicate because you haven't got the time to put into it, so you just don't say the truth, and I think that can be a challenge. I think linking next, I think the big one on this is alignment. So the third one, alignment. A breakdown in alignment creates wasted effort, duplicated work, and lost division. Now, I think the challenge with this, though, is there's a great tool in Giant for this. It's called the Organisation Clarity Tool. And you hear this all the time. So first step, it's like a checklist. Have you got a vision and a mission? And is it clear and is it compelling? And I always say, Paul, where we're so fortunate, I remember going through this exercise with Luke at the Man Club.
Yep.
We started documenting our vision and mission. And for the first time, when I look at what Man Club's achieved and what we do, the vision and mission's so straightforward. It is so straightforward in terms of we're there so no family has to experience the devastation caused by death by suicide.
Yeah.
And how we do that is by opening clubs on a Monday. And how often, Paul, would you say it's been when people try and go away from that vision or mission, it gets complicated, doesn't it?
That's it. And that's where we have to jump in and we have to help people and we have to tell them what our mission is and our values. And it's so simple, it works. And what people sometimes try and do is come in and try and complicate issues, going away from what works, and it's not our way.
And the challenge is it's getting harder because we're now classed as a large charity, so we need more risk and governance. That means that we need more guardians involved with that piece of work. But it starts taking us away from, we're not experts. We never want to be experts.
When you think 100,000 visits last year,
crazy.
It's not small. It's not a small land.
No. And so and I think where people often overcomplicate things is that vision and mission, and keeping it, making it too complicated. For us in Think Cloud, it's really simple. We want our customers to succeed through tech. It's as simple as that, and we want our team to be relentless at, if it's something's not working, what are you known for doing when you was back on the tools? You would just do that football field.
Yeah, whatever needed to be done. Even if it wasn't a technical job, if it just needed something to get the customer going, working, fix a problem for them, we just think outside the box at times just to try and...
When you look at your role clarity exercise, what we're looking at now, organisation clarity in our role, you've put process in. Everybody knows their role now, don't they?
Interestingly, you say this. I've got some bits on this because you're leading me nicely here, Paul, because we did... And the next sort of stage on that is, so you got vision and mission, step one. Have you got that? Is it clear? Is it compelling? Yeah. Values, do people know the values and do they actually live them? And you're holding people accountable to them values.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's one of the hardest things is that one, the values one. Because a lot of people write values and they're all wishy-washy, or they do it because they think that's what everyone else is doing. But like for us, one of ours is to be positively awkward. And people might say, what do you mean by positively awkward? Now, really ask them difficult guardian questions to make sure that we never use the word assume, and we've really got to the root cause, because it's so easy to blame, because we use all these different pieces of tech. It's really easy to blame the tech for not working, and it could be a human error somewhere there. But
I've never made a human error in tech. Have I, Dean?
No.
There you go.
But the challenge what you have is back to self-preservation. Yeah. People don't want to admit that they've made a mistake, so we use tools like 5 Whys, and how's that helped you?
Oh, hugely. We've done a couple, haven't we, just before Christmas, and the amount of value we got from it. And the thing is, we even shared it with the customer. We had a problem what had gone on. We used the 5 why analysis to break down the actual root cause of the problem. It actually went down. It was a massive technical job. It actually went down to a communication breakdown.
So it's so simple.
It's so simple.
So it's so complicated, and the challenge is the customer didn't see that, but we just missed the bar. So simple. And
I think that was before Christmas. I was in the meeting.
Yeah, I think you were.
I emailed you because Dean was brilliant in that meeting.
That's where I was linking into, because you guys have buddied up and giving feedback in different scenarios, and you just happened to be in one of his meetings, and you just to explain what you did.
So Dean was in a meeting with a customer, and I was in a meeting with the same customer afterwards, and they was quite happy for me to sit in there, and I sat there and watched Dean tell the customer about the project that's going on and what's happened in great detail. Right, the customer was really happy with what Dean presented to him, and I was under a lot of pressure because I had to present after Dean left. But no, it was cool, and obviously Dean had to go because Dean was busy, so he come back to the office and he didn't see me presenting my part. But what I wanted to feedback Dean, because I know Dean for a few years now, Dean has never sometimes backed himself and didn't believe what he was doing. And I've been in a lot of production meetings over a lot of years and senior leadership team meetings. And Dean's meeting that I was in that Friday was up there with the best of them, especially the amount of detail. And when the customer asked difficult questions, Dean could change and put them questions into what he was planning and said, yeah, we can do that, no problem. And it was so detailed, and I thought I'd just feed it back to you and Scott and Dean, because he needs to believe in himself, because it was brilliant piece of presentation work.
But what I found really interesting with you two, because you're both nurturers, you both sometimes struggle with that same thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's once you two start owning that, like I'm mine for areas now, which I didn't know was a problem for you two. I'm mine for areas of, you did that, because I think sometimes the challenge I have, which I don't recognise sometimes with you two, where I'm not aware of it, is nothing's ever good enough for me anyway. I always like to have things better. Yeah. So I'm on to the next thing, and actually the bit I'm really poor at is celebrating the great work we've done.
Yeah.
And again, it's just having them little bits of feedback loops, isn't it? And I think where that leads next, where we was going, is leadership. Our roles and responsibilities clear at every level. Now, that's where we're failing. And it's interesting, right? But at the minute, one of our lowest scores, but we're not far off 70. Our team does not have relationship drama or gossip. Now, we've got a bit of that going on the numbers. And at first, you might be like, what are you sharing that on a podcast forum? But we knew that was going to go down because we've got a young team in some areas. Kieran's stepping up into being a service delivery manager, isn't he? But he's young in that area, and we know experience, but we've got new tech, new systems. But then, like I say, we've gone from 4 of us to 20 of us, and we've probably doubled in the last year alone, haven't we?
Yeah.
Massive growth. That was always the plan. And we always started with quite a flat structure, and we've always tried to have quite a flat structure because we've got great apprentices who have come through and developed them, because we really struggled to get the right level of credibility out there in the market. But what we'd analysed is no one's doing exactly what we're doing. So us trying to recruit them skills, we're never going to get them. So the bit what we've worked really tirelessly on the last 5 years is really documenting what Scott and Dean and the team do, the more senior level team, to really make sure that when we bring people in, we can set them up to win. But then we're at that stage now where we are bringing more people in, but we've outgrown our org chart. So at the minute we are booked in where we need to do a new org chart, a new accountability chart, because we had an org chart what was meant to get us to our sort of 5-year plan, but we've hit it in 3 years. So at the minute we are squeaking there a little bit, and it's nothing bad. I don't know if you want to add to it, because you're in there. Dean's put his hand up to help in some areas, in some bits, and what would you add to that?
Yeah, it's back to that 5Y we spoke about earlier. It's a great example of the comms breakdown we had. When we looked at one of the examples, the comms came from, we had a new team member come in, a technical team member, and then we had 2 engineers go to site to do a job. Now, when they came back and we broke down the 5Y process and what had gone wrong, when we discussed the comms with the engineers, one of the other engineers said, I knew that was going on, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought he was higher than me, and I didn't feel like it was my place to tell him because I thought he'd know more than me, and I thought I might have been wrong. And there was this comms hierarchy sort of thing, like I didn't want to say it because he's above me, and it's never been defined. That's never been clear. So that was obviously one of the reasons why. And I think
one of the challenges on that is because Dean's had a customer success. When it does go wrong, it takes up all Dean's time. So I think what was interesting for that team in that scenario was Dean's full weekend was obliterated. So that had to come out in the 5 Ys around it and all. And it's only when you, again, I think the hardest thing it sounds easy what we're doing, but there's got to be psychological safety for everybody in the team, because it's back to when we went to the Red Arrows.
Yep.
It's just data points back, because it's not personal. We just want to do a better experience, and they generally believe that. And it comes back to that, is it a limit if is it a prohibition versus inhibition? Yeah. And in that situation, it was technically a prohibition.
Yeah.
Sorry, an inhibition, nothing they could have done. And that's what we're really starting to drive. So we're expecting to see that go up, because we're going to have definitive roles, which we have got now, haven't we?
Yeah.
But really making sure, because you've got to remember what we do is, we do cybersecurity, so we have to secure things. And when you secure things, that don't make them that nice to collaborate.
Yeah.
And you've got this real challenge in what we do is between making someone safe and allowing them to collaborate. And if you break it down at its component parts, computers are designed fundamentally to connect and talk to each other on the internet.
Yeah.
From a cybersecurity point of view, we need to stop that. But the world has all gone digital in this new world we live in. So it's like a bit of a paradox, because we're there to help them collaborate, but sometimes the environment changes, and the customer might not see it as a bad thing, but changing to a new network, it might not have the right certificate on that on that Wi-Fi, and it might be something so simple, but it might not be something so simple. It might be something it might be a bad actor there.
Yeah.
And it's always that chance where with security, sometimes it just goes wrong. And the challenge we've got is we're on the edge with the technology. We're so far on the edge. We're on the leading edge, because bad actors are always coming with new scams and new ways of getting it. So we've got to be there. So it's just finding that happy medium. And it's always going to be a challenge. So that's why we're really investing on that. And then you get back into the organisational clarity. So it's like, strategy, how do we win? So for us in that area, it links back into structure. Have we got the right people, the right systems, the right capital? And that's the bit we're constantly evolving all the time, because we haven't always got the right systems. So we have to change systems because new software, as new threats come out. And then it causes another problem, because then we've got to retrain the people.
Yeah.
and it's a constant battle that we're always going to have. But every organisation has always got that constant battle, and I think it's about having that. I've done the marshmallow tests, the marshmallow challenges. You've seen me do that before. Who can build the highest tower of spaghetti with a marshmallow placed at the top? And time after time, it's children at kindergarten who absolutely smash it because they don't do that piece, what you just said, get into that organisational structure. They just want to win and create something. Yeah. And I think for me, it's trying to have that. And then that links back into tactics. How do your people know what to do? And that's the biggest challenge, is what I would say. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, back to that. We touched a little bit on this earlier. How do people know what to do? That's why I think the processes we've got in place, what do we have so people know what to do? We've got dedicated 10-10-10 meetings.
Weekly with staff,
Weekly. So that's weekly with staff. We have a weekly team meeting, which involves
everyone's involved,
for clear comms. It's all up there on the board. People get asked even at the end of the meeting, anybody got anything else to add? So like you said at the beginning, everybody's got a voice. We make sure everyone's inclusive.
I was in your last 10-10.
We set you up, didn't we?
Set me up.
Yeah.
Set me up to fail.
Should we discuss that
now?
No, we'll discuss that now.
No, we'll carry on.
No, but it's even like that though, because the other challenge, what you got to remember as well, it's all right as having this level 10 meeting where anyone can say anything, but sometimes people don't want to say anything in public. It's a challenge. Yeah. So then we have to back that up with what we call a 10-10-10 meeting. Yeah. 10 minutes for you, 10 minutes for me, 10 minutes for next actions. But the thing is, it takes a lot of time and effort, which people don't realise, do they? A lot of time. Yeah.
I think what's really good listening to your 10 team meetings, it's been really good. I was in, didn't I? I out in the office very often, but I popped in and just sat and listened to you all do it. Just watching members of the team having their personal bests and professional bests and listening to what they've solved that week and everybody else in the team, like, praising them for what they've done and they're taking real pride in what they do. And and I think that's another one, isn't it? He's setting them up to win.
Yeah, well, we're trying. And I think we link back into, so number 4 on the list is execution. So let's look at that if we explore that. And again, if you've got a challenge around execution, this is where different tools come in. And I love, for example, the core process we mentioned. Call it, own it.
Yeah.
Execute on it. What's your action plan? I love the 70-30. That was one of my favourite exercises to do. I think that's an awesome tool. And again, do you want to explain the 70-30?
The 70-30 is 70% of what your best use is and 30% of what you have to do, but you really don't like.
Like admin.
Admin, chasing people up on invoices, bits and pieces that you don't really like.
Stuff,
the important stuff that's crucial. Yeah. The important stuff that's crucial, but you really don't like doing it. So your 70% is the stuff that you really like doing, what you excel at.
But I think an interesting one around this execution, and I was only thinking when I was preparing for the podcast earlier, but do you remember like when there was probably 5 of us and we were we had this vision for you, didn't we?
Yeah.
In this role that you're in now.
Yeah.
That you couldn't see back in the day. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And we didn't have this eloquent toolkit, but I always remember there was a delegate elevate tool I did for you. Yeah. Do you remember that back in the day?
I remember that.
Try and explain that if you can, or do you want me to do
because I've shared this with you member of staff that we got. Shared it with Rachel. Yes, it's like sending this framework out, and it's to get an understanding of what people are really good at and what they enjoy, what they're good at as well, what they're not so great at, and what they'd like to delegate and get rid of a task. And I think you got me to fill this in, and I think this sort of helped transition me into the role I'm in, because I like the bits where I like speaking to customers, I like figuring out problem
solving it. Yeah,
I like talking to the staff, I like dealing with escalations if there's an issue. And then some of the things I didn't like doing, what I wanted to delegate, was things like admin and sales orders, quotes, procurement, and that sort of helped shape where I was going.
And what it also did, that tool, and I think it's like an adaptation of the 70-30, is it let me see, I'm helping Dean. As a leader, my job is to give Dean resources and also aid him with his own resources. So the one resource none of us are getting any more of is time. We're not getting no more time.
Yeah.
And I was able to look at it and go, if you don't like them things there, the next task I gave him was, who could do them things for you?
Yes, yeah.
But then it was about going through and making sure that the people you're giving them to, they also enjoy them. And that's where I think Giant really helps, because different voices naturally like different things, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think what's a big challenge for organisations around this execution, not everyone has the luxury. It's easy for us to sit on here and say, oh, we can take all the things you like doing and give them to one person. Not everyone has that. So I do think it is a bit of a challenge.
I think sometimes if you don't watch it as well, it can end up being, instead of 70-30, it can be 70-30 the other way, 30-70.
So what you're saying there is, to anyone listening, 70% of the time you're doing loads of stuff that, like, it's like me when I was, remember before we had the app, where I was doing these catalyst reports.
Yeah.
I'm having to painstakingly write every single report.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic, so it's a challenge on its own. And then it's let's build an app, and then let's automate that. And
because not, you'd be doing 30-70, wouldn't you, instead of 70-30, and the business won't get the best version of you. Yeah.
And other tools I like around execution, one of my other favourites is the 5 gears.
I love the 5 gears.
Yeah, do you want to go through that and share that? What has the 5 gears helped you with doing on execution? Because I always remember doing this exercise with you. There was 2 exercises I did.
Yeah.
One was the 5 gears. Yeah, so wait for you. Go on. Gosh, you.
I forgot it.
He's going to the toilet.
You-
He's gone to the toilet. Need to pause it. 50 minutes, 40 seconds.
I thought it looks a bit uncomfortable. He's funny, isn't he? He's so funny.
Where's he going?
So funny. Genius. Did you see him looking all uncomfortable?
I thought he was going to get the 5 gears.
I don't know what he's
Post
doing.
there or
I don't know
something.
what he's doing.
I thought he was off to get that.
It's a big one, this one, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
a monster, this one.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah.
You made a note of that, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm laughing at you picking up on that on his book.
And I can't. My circle of influences family. Number 1, Leon. Number 3, my wife. Zoe will know now. Too.
Yeah, Zoe, you know now,
Have
don't
to
you?
keep it quiet.
Funny. Only you could discover that.
Yeah, I was keen. I was just thinking, I want to see him number 1. That would be Kim.
That's a worry, isn't it? He's not up for him, is he? God. No, but it's meant in the sense of sometimes the closer ones to you don't allow you to they worry for you too much.
Yeah, I get that. Makes sense.
I always remember setting my first business up, and mum was like, "What do you need a better job for? Just stay at that place," because they'd always stayed at the same job, same.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and there's no progression. They're just comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely busting.
What do you say then?
Well, I did in the end, when it was nearly too late.
So where did we? What was it getting up to? For
We're just
5
starting
gears.
the 5 gears.
So 52, isn't it? I've got the 5 gears are there. Look, if you need them, they're all there. Look, Paul.
But I've wrote a lot of notes.
All right, get your 5 gears up then.
Yeah, I've got like a couple of examples.
I think your 2 examples are absolutely brilliant about your 5 gears.
Which ones? Which one went tight it?
Where resets. Yeah, but I know.
Where
Where you reach
off.
when
Oh,
you
right,
switch
okay,
off
yeah,
on
all
your
right.
own.
Well, I'm gonna. So we'll go back on the 5 gears again.
Yeah,
I'll line us up again. You got your notes yet? Get your breath back.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
So let me just get where I'm up on here. So another great tool which I love around execution is the 5 gears, because I think that's been the biggest game changer for me. But there was 2 examples of this. So I'll just rattle through the 5 gears real quick. So gear 1 is recharge for yourself.
Yep.
Number 2 is connecting with someone real close to you on a sort of deep level. Number 3 is social mode. So you're in there connecting with friends and family. Number 4 is multitasking mode, and number 5 is like deep focus mode. And if you get it wrong, you're in reverse. You're apologising, right?
Yep.
But I always remember doing this exercise with you, Dean, and I got you to. One part of it is you score yourself on what you naturally gravitate towards.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you gravitated towards multitasking, didn't you?
I did.
Do you remember the exercise I did with you? Multitasking is a lie.
Yes.
Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, you're right. Multitasking is a lie at the top, and then you write it at the bottom, don't you?
So you do multitasking is a lie in one word. Then underneath each letter you write 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's like I think it's 20. I think it's like 26.
Yeah,
letters,
26 letters or something in it. And And then you have to do it again, don't you? You have to.
So the first, I'll help you. So the first way you do it is you write multitasking is a lie in one go, and you time it, and underneath it you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, right? And it takes people normally between 30 seconds and 45 seconds.
I've done it with
you. Have you done it?
Yeah, I've done it with.
I think I did it at B&I once, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then the second time you do it is you do M1, U2,
That's it.
and you do it that way, and you multitask. How difficult was it, Dana?
Nightmare.
It's 3 times as long, and I still think I made mistakes. So it just proves that multitasking can take you longer, and there's more room or more margin for error by multitasking.
But what did you?
Great exercise.
But what did you learn when you were doing that on the 5 gears?
Yeah, for me it was great, and again, a couple of examples for you as well. But for me, it was the recharge bit. What was I doing to recharge? And when I reflected back on that, I was finishing work, coming home, and still doing work. And it was I think do you remember we agreed cut-off points of driving home when I get to a certain point.
That was Asda, wasn't it?
It was like a flyover, like a bridge flyover near Asda on the way home. And I was like, when I get to that point, if somebody starts ringing me from work, I'm not picking that call up, because sometimes I'd pull up outside my house on the drive, I'm still sat on the phone for half an hour. So I used that gear to recharge, learn when to switch off, which helped. The connect, I use the connect a lot, and I think this is what you was working on. So I come into the office in the morning, I'll speak to the guys, how was your evening or weekend, quick connect with them, let them know I'm here, what's going on. And I think you had that one, didn't you? Because sometimes you'd come in.
Yeah, so my challenge would be I'd be up walking with him at 5:30. He's sharing his problems. I'm trying to help solve them, or we're back and we're firing, and then you're also helping me with some of our problems. All of a sudden, I'm coming in I'm in the office. I've been up since 5:30.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm at the office at 8:30, I'm in gear 5.
Yeah.
I'm just on it, and what I realised was I wasn't really connecting with members of the team.
Yeah.
And
because you're in a
different game, and I realised that I'm walking in, and first thing is I want this doing, I want that doing, and I didn't realise that because I want to chase this goal so much. I'm completely missing the relationship piece.
Yeah.
So I worked on that quite a bit. I try.
Yeah, it's good. The social one, I've worked on the social one. Even things like work, socialising with the guys at work when I need to, which is good for the team morale, team building, but also personally as well. Cutting out things of I want to socialise and spend my time in areas with people that I get value from, whether it be family, friends. What I realised from that gear was sometimes I'm socialising with people that I don't really want to. I'm just doing it because we've done it out of habit for the past few years. So let me reflect on that. Other things, multitasking was my general gear. I used to come in and I used to have people, I still do, still have people at my desk left, right and centre asking different questions, and I'm always hopping in and out of different tasks. So I thought that was where I excelled at, was the multitasking. But again, doing that exercise, what Leon did, the multitasking is a lie. It just demonstrates there's room for error, and it takes up all your time as well. So what I'm trying to do now is work more on gear 5, which is focus mode, and what's helped me on that is more basically how to get into that gear is prioritise my tasks, the bigger ones that I need to be working on. I need to rather get away from the desk. So if I sit at the desk, even if I had an egg timer on my desk, which we've tried in the past, or even if I had a sticker on
gear 5, we've tried, haven't we, all of us?
I've just found the best way to do it is to go and lock myself in a meeting room for a couple of hours and get that gear 5 task out the way, what I need to do. And once I've achieved the bigger tasks, the gear 5 tasks, what I've knocked off the list, which are the important ones, and I drop back into the environment where I know multitasking is going to come in, I'm fine with that because I've already chipped to it the big ones what I needed to.
And that's the hard bit, because we got other offices at Aura, haven't we? Which you nick half the time as well, don't you?
Yeah.
And I like Aura because that gets me away from here. It just gets me where I can focus on my big things, and I really enjoy my time spent there. But then the other side, what I like about Aura as well, it naturally gets me into gear 2 and 3 quite easily, because I see a lot of people there who I won't normally see, because it's just full of all interesting people, and I get to connect with people in different ways. And I also found we have more one-to-ones there, don't we?
Yeah.
And I think they're just a bit better there, aren't they? It's the environment.
The environment. Yeah.
It's one of them where when I need to be in focus mode, I lock myself away now. Right? I've been there for just before Christmas. I was there for 8 days on the trot, just locked in an office, learning some new stuff, new offerings, working on Giant, and I got absolutely loads done. Where if you're in an office environment, it's nobody's fault, but you get talking into other stuff, you get sidetracked. And I think That's brilliant. Going on myself, gear one, I used to, because I love what I do so much, I find it really hard to switch off.
You had a tough week the other week, didn't you?
I had a tough week last week, really tough week last week. But if you mention the 5 gears to my wife, she doesn't know anything about the 5 gears, but she knows gear 1, right? Yeah. So now in my calendar, I have from 8 o'clock onwards, gear 1 and my alarm goes off, right? So if I'm actually doing any work or even touching my phone, my wife goes, gear 1, right? Because I've explained to my wife what gear 1 means, and I've said to her from 8 o'clock on a night, I want us to be in gear 1, and I explained what that meant. And we do it, being a game changer, right? Because we have really good conversations between 7:30, or if it can be earlier than 8 o'clock, it's earlier than 8 o'clock. But if it's not, it's between 8 and 10, and it's realise how much conversation you can have. And it's been a game changer for us. It's been brilliant. But she don't know now about, but she knows gear 1, because if I pick my phone up, she goes, what gear you in?
It's the most important one when you're.
And it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think wrap up as well, last sort of part on this, which we've gone through all these at different stages, but I thought just to wrap up is the capacity one and getting things done without burning out and developing others. And I think the bit we already mentioned, didn't we, around the delegating around the pit of despair, unconscious incompetent, consciously incompetent, conscious competent, and unconsciously competent, and going through that circle. But the other one, which I think is quite interesting as well, and I want to close on this really, is effective delegation. And I think the real big challenge I think companies face on this, because I know this as well, I've struggled with this, is you've got to make sure that someone's got authority and you've got to empower them, and also someone's got to have responsibility. So, and I'm not sure, this is an area that I'm still trying to spin myself, is where you shift from empowering someone and making it safe. You got any comments on that? You want to help on that?
Yeah, I think you actually helped me with this.
All right, it's interesting.
Last week, new member of staff that's come in, and like you say, capacity is the key word, and I'm getting tasks in that I'm unconsciously competent at doing. I just smash them out. Yeah. Now, capacity-wise, I've not really got capacity to do it at the minute, and even more so when I'm having to slow down to show somebody else how to do it. But what I was having to do is, like we mentioned earlier, set that person up to win. I had to go one simple quote, which should have took, let's say, half an hour. I had to spend an hour pulling the pieces out and putting it together in a process so that somebody else could go away and do it. Now, I set Rachel up to win by giving her guided instructions. I knew that if this quote went out, there was a good resource there to back enough, so 90% would be correct, and there was maybe a little room for margin, but for a little room for error, if you like. But you said to me yesterday, as long as you're setting up last week, if you're setting up to win, you've done a process, it's clear communications. Some plates are going to drop, but it's just understanding that some plates are okay to drop and making sure that you're managing what plates can be dropped. And I've used that. I've used it for the past week or two, and so far, touch wood, everything's gone all right. But I think the main thing is just slow down. It's gonna take your time, but it'll avoid burnout, and it's the only way you're gonna get capacity back.
And have you found slowing down to write these processes that now things are starting to speed up because the other person can do that task?
There's a lot of moving parts to what we do, and even today there's a couple of small ones what came in. Where last week I was shadowing the full process from start to finish. So today we've been in and out of meetings all day, but I'd said to Rachel, look, them two what have come in, you've done them last week, just have a go. There was small, there was...
And that's back to what we're talking there, is authority and empowerment, but that you're still helping on the responsibility piece and taking that there. Because I think I remember the conversation now, actually. What I'd said to him was, back to that octopus on roller skates, was... When Dean started, he didn't even have a desk. Or didn't even get him a desk, did you? You had to go buy his own desk. And I remember when I started up, I had to go get an own desk. It's how it used to be. And what I was trying to say to Dean is, just look at all the resources that we've got in place and all the things. And Dean did an amazing job in recruitment and all that. And I'm like, you can't do any more. You don't, just trust the people we've got. And I think, for me, a bit like the Man Club story, what we talk about all the time. We set up Andy's Man Club Hull, didn't we?
Yep.
And we're then having to multiply the magic on for other facilitators. I remember at times you was a bit of a stickler because it had to be done a certain way.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, totally.
And do you want to share, how brave do you want to be? Do you want to share, you rang me recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
Go on.
So I relinquished my position with Andy's Man Club about 2-3 months ago because my business was getting bigger and work-life balance. But obviously Andy's Man Club's part of my DNA. Right?
You still part, even though
I'm still part of it.
You're not a paid member of staff. You still.
I'm not a paid member of staff, but I'm a facilitator, and I go to all the old clubs and still love, and still part of my DNA, right? And a couple of people have rang me with a couple of concerns, right? And I, as a nurturer, I suppose, try and fix things, right? And sometimes it's not as I would do it, right? But like Leon pointed out to me, just because it's not like Paul Longley does it, doesn't make it wrong, right? And when I sat back and thought about it, he was 100% right. Yeah. And Paul was 100% wrong, right? But sometimes that's when you have crucial conversations.
You weren't 100% wrong. What I called him up on, which is disgusting, is there's a million ways to do different things. And there's a massive change of 6-7 years of us doing something a certain way.
Yeah.
And he was struggling to let go.
Yeah.
Really struggling to let go because he was right in what he was saying, but if we had rolled it back 7 years ago, he was far better than what he was doing 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yes.
And what I was trying to call him up on is there's got to be some bits that aren't as perfect. And I know it's going to come back up, but if you're the one solving it all the time, it's always going to be you. And they'll solve it themselves. Trust the people. And
trust the process.
And how great are the team? How great are the team?
Oh, the team are absolutely fantastic.
They don't need us anymore, do they?
Don't need us anymore.
And that was always the goal, what I always said, and this is, for me, around effective delegation, especially with the Man Club, the biggest lesson it's ever taught me is if the Man Club needed me to open a club on a Monday night and I couldn't be there one Monday night, it's just not a place I wanted to be. Yeah. So the goal and the vision and the mission for me always was, it can't need me. It cannot need me. And it was the same for you. And it's got to be the same for us in the business, because if it's all about that self-preservation and we're not doing what's right, to really get people to shine and grow, you've got to give them empowerment.
And I think they have, haven't they? I think they have. It's grown from strength to strength. And I go to all the different clubs, right, visiting, and I go in there and I come out absolutely beaming because you see what's created from years of hard work, and you come away and think, it don't need me anymore.
Because every great organisation has great people, and you continuously bring great people in and make the process better. I always laugh, and I was laughing at this the other day. We had snakes in there once, didn't we?
Not in my shift. I was on holiday.
Yeah, I know.
I was on holiday.
You know what I mean? And tarantulas, and we got things wrong back in the day, right?
It wouldn't have. I'd have been running down that street, mate.
But we now know that's not what to do, innit?
We do know.
That's been a great one.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it, and it just undermines what a great tool we're using.
So that's Leon checking out.
Paul checking out.
Dean checking out.
It was an hour, that one, because we were pushing them out for a little bit.
Good that.